You can adapt this same kind of mindset in terms of, I'm going to kick this thing, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it by my determination and by adapting my thinking and by not letting everything that could be a roadblock become a roadblock for me.
My guest today is Ralph Preston, the founder of Stroke Buddies. If you are anywhere on Facebook, you have likely come across one of his many groups, Stroke Buddies for guitar, Stroke Buddies for yoga, Stroke Buddies for fill in the blank. He's got a group for it. But what really sets Ralph apart is his mindset. What is remarkable about Ralph is that he rehabbed himself when he was sent home from the hospital in a wheelchair. What he figured out is that mindset made the difference. So our conversation today is about adaptive thinking and Ralph's take on that and how you can apply it to your own rebuilding journey. This is Life Beyond Aphasia. Hello, Ralph Preston. Thank you so much for joining me today. We have an interesting topic. I want to talk about adaptive thinking, and let's throw in the P word, plateau, and let's talk about that. But first, Ralph Preston, you are a dynamo in the stroke world. You are the founder of Stroke Buddies. Stroke Buddies can be found on Facebook. First, give us a thumbnail sketch of what Stroke Buddies is, and then let's get into our topic.
I'm a stroke survivor that decided very early on to help other stroke survivors. That went through a number of iterations until I actually started calling it Stroke Buddies about 10 years ago. My stroke was 18 years ago, but prior to naming it Stroke Buddies, I had done a number of things. I participated in things to give other people hope, bike rides and things that I wasn't supposed to be able to do. And I gave motivational speeches. I learned about physical therapy. I worked with local stroke survivors doing PT with them. I held support group meetings at hospitals and such. And eventually that came around. I had a big project I wanted to do that was difficult to fund. I finally had funding, but from an organization that was funded by the CDC, and we were getting ready to do it, and they pulled the plug. And basically I said, okay, this is getting embarrassing. I said, well, I always do what I say I'm going to do. So it's time to, guess what? Stop, think about it, shift gears, like we're going to talk about, figure out what to do, and go around the problem. So the solution, I did that, and the solution was, I said to myself, Ralph, you got a camera, you got an edit system, you don't have a sponsor for several $100,000 to make this definitive DVD on stroke recovery. And so you don't like being on camera, but you have to point the camera at yourself and show people what you did. And so I started a YouTube channel, and I've been participating in some of the Facebook stroke groups, and I was adminning one that I since have kind of taken over. And so I started Stroke Buddies on Facebook, and we're fighting strokes by sharing knowledge is one of our catchphrases. I believe in that a focused recovery is better than a willy-nilly or scattered recovery. And so we try and help people by sharing and recovery. The point of starting was rather than get funding and try and do the whole thing at once, I just started doing recovery videos, how to get your hand better, how to walk better, how to do different things. And between the science, the motivation, the exercises, and all the things that we've got on the YouTube channel, there are now over 400 stroke-related videos. So I've gotten everywhere in life by being a plodder. I just try and keep to the task. And all of a sudden you look back and you go, wow, I got 400 videos done. So
Incredible, Ralph. Well, it's a big community. It's meaningful. It helps so many thousands of people. But let's talk about what was the mindset? What was the kind of thinking that got you there? You had said, I know from your stroke story, that you came home in a wheelchair and you were not willing to settle with that. So
No,
let's,
no, it was not. Like my mindset was, I'm pretty intense. So my mindset in the rehab hospitals, I signed up for more therapies. I found out I could go to different things that I wasn't pool therapy and stuff. So I signed up for anything and everything I could. I didn't want to sit in bed and watch TV when I could get better. And I carried that right home. I got home at 5 o'clock one day and I started the next morning I literally did 10 hours a day of therapy for about 15 months. Every hour on the hour, every other hour on the hour, I would walk, and the other hours, I would work on my hand and my arm and shoulder. Like I said, I'm pretty intense. I don't expect people to be able to do that. But I learned that the more you put in, the more you get out. And so I encourage people basically as running a group and doing videos. I'm basically coaching a lot of people at once. I have no idea how many. I think we influence more people than I'll ever know. Adaptive thinking is the first thing is you have to go into it with a positive attitude that whenever you believe that you're going to succeed at anything, I think you have a much better chance of succeeding. The other thing, I think you have to be curious. The point is, engineers look at problems as an opportunity to create solutions. So I think that's real important in stroke recovery. So many people get discouraged. I run into a lot of people who go, I can't do that. And then you take it down a level. I can't do that. Okay, take it down another level. I can't do that for this reason. A lot of times they have legitimate reasons and you have to take it down a few levels to get to them. But there are a number of people who keep coming at you with, I can't do that. That bothers me because they're stifling their own recovery. And I hate to see that happen. It's hard enough to recover from a stroke without working against yourself. And no, you can't be perfect and you can't maximize everything every day. Yeah, but you have to keep a good attitude. And I think that if you adapt, I think there are a lot of pieces of this puzzle, and the more that you can put together, the better. If you learn adaptive thinking, then you work your way around problems. What does that do for you? It builds confidence. When you have confidence, you feel better and about yourself and about the future, and that gives you hope. And I have this whole thing about a lot of stroke survivors, I see them stuck in the acceptance stage. And until you accept a certain amount about what happened to you, you don't have any hope for the future. If you don't have any hope, then you don't make any plans. If you don't make plans, then you're not executing on anything. And while I don't expect people to do what I did in terms of the number of hours, you can adapt this same kind of mindset in terms of I'm gonna kick this thing. I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna do it by my determination and by adapting my thinking and by not letting everything that could be a roadblock become a roadblock for me. So,
did you think of a time that it was really difficult? You talked about a year you were on antidepressants and pity parties. Can you think of a specific time when that was going on and what you did, or how you adapted your thinking, or was there somebody else that assisted?
people can support you, but nobody can do anything for you, either mentally or physically, in stroke recovery. It's up to you. People definitely, it's good to have supportive people around you. But, okay, to answer your question, the thing I tried to do, I had two kinds of sayings. One I didn't make up and one I did. And some people don't like fake it until you can make it. But that was one I had heard, and I employed my version of it. And the other one that I maybe coined was dive towards tomorrow. In other words, tomorrow's another day. Every day we wake up with a new opportunity. It's not like you can't come up with a new opportunity at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, but there's something about mornings and the way you look at things in the morning. And your mindset in the morning often sets the tone for your day. So just trying to get through this and trying not to do it tomorrow. So my solution to this whole thing was to string too many bad days together, because then you're creating a rut for yourself. And the deeper you dig that rut, the harder it is to get out of it. You know what I find really interesting, though, is, and this happened to me, at some point, the one thing you don't want to hear from anybody else, you have to tell yourself, just get over it. But I don't know if other people can do this, but it worked for me. And did I have 100 pity parties? No, 3 or 4. And I had a couple of times I strung 2 or 3 days together, and I really got worried then and tried to make sure somehow or another I bounce back. One thing you can do is refocus on the things you love to do, your hobbies, what you're doing post-stroke, whether you've adapted your hobbies or found new hobbies, or you're volunteering, because volunteering is a great way to meet good people. So I basically just tried to not string too many bad days together, and I somehow managed not to. Let's see if I can't kick it today. And a lot of times I did. I don't know if that worked for everybody, but it worked for me.
It's very actionable. So I think if I can summarize what I was hearing, first is dive towards tomorrow. I have a saying, this does not serve me. When I find I'm getting in a rut or I start getting sick, get that little tickle in the throat and you're like, nope, this does not serve me. And I'm not focused on not being sick. It's just getting past it. And I think that's kind of like dive towards tomorrow. And the thought about starting fresh in the morning, there is something to be said, especially if you're catching the sun coming up or it's just come up and you go, today's a new day. What can I do? And then you got really concrete, Ralph. And what I mean by that is you did something. You didn't just have the internal thinking or the words. You went and picked up your camera. You went out into the garden. And I think stroke survivors forget to think about the things that do give them joy, that can act as a distraction, that can work as something to put their focus on till they get through a moment.
It's tough when you have your life turned upside down. You have to find, you got another chance. So I tried to focus on what I had, not what I didn't have. Another one of the memes I've made up is a picture of me walking out of the rehab hospital. And I said, yeah, I had a stroke, but I don't let the stroke define me. I know after you're sitting there in a wheelchair and your life's been turned upside down. And I think everybody goes, what's going to happen to me? What is going to happen to me? What am I going to do? What's my future hold for me? I'm sitting in a wheelchair here. This is not what I was planning a few weeks ago before I had this stroke. It's not easy. And I started blogging, and I found that very useful. I found it very useful in a couple of ways, and it had an unexpected result to me that I did not count on. I found that when I formulated my ideas into a blog post, it really helped me and my perspective, my way of looking at things in a very positive way. And as soon as I started blogging, I started getting comments from people. One I remember that I really liked, it was real early on, was a guy wrote, I laughed, I cried, I lived through it with you. Somehow or another, you managed to express all the things that I was feeling. So I didn't expect other people to identify with it. So I had my stroke training for the senior games, and a year later, I went and did the senior games. Showing up's important in all ways. Showing up for yourself every morning when you got that reset, when the sun's coming up. But also, I had a couple of video jobs, and I didn't cancel them, and I showed up anyway. The first one, I was walking around a meeting with a camera. I was afraid, I was terrified I was going to trip over a chair or something, but I didn't. So that was confidence building. I did another one on, I could currently stand up for about 10 minutes. So I showed up for an 8-hour seminar where I got to stand behind the camera. And I said, okay, you do the best you can. I put a chair behind it. I sat down about 4 times for about 2 or 3 minutes. As soon as I sat down, I'd go, you need to be standing up and looking at the viewfinder. It's real different to be sitting and having the viewfinder tip towards you and have to be able to, you can't react near as quick. You have to stand up and get your hands back on the controls and stuff. So it's not a comfortable position for somebody like me who's a lifelong videographer. So I went home that day and I realized I'd sit up for an hour at a time, probably the longest block. And I had managed to string 6 or 8, it was 6 or 8 hour session. I recorded all of it. And that was real confidence boosting. The day we were to do that at the folk festival, it was 95 degrees, which is really hot in the mountains. And I had no shade. I had to stand outside. Between interviews, I'd get in the shade. I'm telling you about this not so much because of what actually occurred that day in terms of my recording, but what occurred that day was at the end of that day, it was about, that was in August. I had my stroke in April, so 4 or 5 months in. At that point, I made it through that. And yeah, I beat the fatigue thing by doing exactly what I'm talking about, pushing myself. Now, I think it's a really good idea to push yourself as long as you are aware of safety. You never ignore the whole safety thing. But I found that by stretching myself, by putting myself out there, by showing up, that it was real confidence building. And when you get some confidence, I think I got this knocked. So I personally think it's a bad idea to compare strokes or anything. I think there's some universal truths that work for everybody. But if you had a stroke, I have no idea what you went through, what the physical deficits were. I have no idea about your ability or inability to deal with that mentally. So I think being judgmental or comparative is wrong. I still think that regardless of the severity of your stroke, there are some universal truths. People ask me a lot, will I get better? I watch people's videos and coach them and stuff, and everybody wants to know, am I going to get better? When I did 5 years, I showed up 3 times a week and took her to pool therapy. So we had over 1,200, did over 1,200 therapy sessions in those 5 years. So, and what I found, and again, it's not about me or me showing up. I did though. The point is, in her case, I came home and said, I met her at a support group I was running. And her friend that brought her was doing physical therapy with her under a physical therapist. But the point is, she's got a great attitude. I like her. She works hard. As long as she does that, I'm going to go over there and help her. But there's no way in hell this woman's ever going to walk again. 4 years later, I walked her to 1,000 feet down the hall with a frame walker. So it's important to believe. It's really important to believe that things are possible.
Yeah.
I always try and come up with things like fighting strokes by sharing knowledge, putting yourself out there, kind of things, because I guess what I'm trying to do, a lot of what I'm trying to do is, in addition to educate people, is influence their attitude, because I really think that attitude's everything. I think it's about half of the whole recovery process, because if you aren't accepting and you aren't hoping and dreaming and moving forward, you're not moving forward.
You were starting to say that you were talking to someone before we came on today. She gave you advice. What was that?
Plateaus. Plateaus are semi-inevitable. Your brain wants to be challenged, and therapists, I'm not blaming physical or occupational therapists, but therapy is based on repetitions. Repetitions are a good thing. You need a lot of repetitions. They say, some people say 1,000, most people say 10,000. But So the brain gets used to anything that you do too much. It's lazy. It'll learn what you're doing and just kind of not learn anything from it. So you have to mix up your routine. Do people know that? A lot of people don't. And so a lot of people don't. Another part of this whole process is being innovative and thinking for yourself. So many people just follow they get handed the sheets by the physical therapists, and you're the one who's going to make yourself better, and you're going to do it at home. The physical therapist is basically like a piano teacher. You go and learn the lesson, you practice during the week, you go back and show improvement. They give you a new piece to practice or guidance on the one you're working on, and it's the same in therapy. But what I did was I tried to figure out things for myself beyond what they did. And I think that having a curiosity and being innovative are very useful. Integrate the therapist into your program. Don't rely on the programs that come at you from our healthcare system, because everybody knows our healthcare system is fragmented and isn't doing what it could do. And that's as far as I'm willing to bash it. But negotiating, it's not the simplest thing. So have a plan for yourself. And so back to plateaus. Yeah, I was speaking with a friend, a doctor of physical therapy, and her idea was that plateaus are semi-inevitable. Anything that's inevitable, you have to figure out, don't you? Because you'll run into it again. So she looks at them as an opportunity to reset. That could be a mental reset. Often it requires a mental reset before you can come up with the actual program to reset your therapy and start challenging your brain again. So I'd not really heard that philosophy, and it's new in the last couple months, but I've been seriously embracing it in terms of my thinking. If a plateau's inevitable, she sees it as one more step in the flight of stairs you have to go up to get where you want to go. So many people get discouraged; they don't know what to do. By the way, your physical therapist can plateau you when they don't know what to do. So that's maybe a good reason that you have your own program. There are wonderful physical therapists out there, but if a lot of times when they release you, it's because they don't know what to do with you. And you do stop making progress. Now, but the way around all of it is to take ownership of your own recovery.
And there's not a wrong way to do it. It's about doing it, figuring it out. Again, you pointed out to safety. Don't do something that's not going to be safe for you. But everything you try is an opportunity to learn. That's how you have neuroplasticity. That's how you build new pathways, how you grow those neurons in your brain.
Yep.
Ralph, this has been an amazing conversation. I love that we started with adaptive thinking. We talked about plateaus as an opportunity. We talked about mindset. There's a lot of really good information in this. And I really hope our listeners go back and listen to this again, because you have walked this path for 18 years, and you walk this path not only with those you directly coached, but with your community on Stroke Buddies.
A stroke survivor does what it can do. Another one of the things that I say is you can change someone's life with a simple act of kindness. And it's absolutely true, whether it's taking food to them. But even if you haven't had a stroke, we all need acceptance and hope in life in order to move towards our dreams. If you don't have hope, then you don't dream. If you don't dream, then you don't make plans. If you don't make plans, you don't move forward.
Love it.
So keep hoping and keep having belief and dreaming, setting your own course.
Love it. Ralph, thank you for joining me today. And I look forward to continued coordination, cooperation, work with Stroke Buddies. You got it. Thanks, Ralph. I really enjoyed Ralph sharing more of his story with you and talking about adaptive mindset. One of my takeaways is if you don't have that naturally in yourself, it can be learned, it can be fostered, it can be grown. And that's exciting because there's always hope. There's always a path forward to rebuilding your life after aphasia and after a stroke. And to that end, if you are the aphasia survivor and you want to see where you're strong in 9 areas of communication and where you could use some help, we encourage you to find the link below and take our Aphasia Strengths Compass. It'll take you 10 minutes. Sit down with someone else, your spouse, a friend, a neighbor, and go through it together and start the conversation about communication. You can find the link below in the show notes. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Life Beyond Aphasia. Rehab ends. Life doesn't. Rebuild communication, rebuild connection, rebuild life. This is Life Beyond Aphasia.